Inspiration is a cool thing. The idea that certain concepts are so interesting, others want to offer their own take on it. In some cases, it is so impactful it essentially creates a genre, with the most notable example of this being Rogue and Metroidvania, both of which are named after the games that define the concept. Still, some novel ideas have not taken off, perhaps the most notable being Returnal. But that seemingly changed with Luna Abyss. It tries to combine Returnal, Doom, and Dead Space into a compelling new experience. With such high expectations, is it worth checking out, or is it a pale imitation? Luna Abyss's narrative is relatively straightforward. You play an inmate, known simply as Fox, who is forced to work off their sentence. As things progress, the world starts to open up, ultimately revealing a larger plot centered around various factions fighting for the future they think is best. While a story like this can work, it comes with the usual baggage. The biggest being vague comments. Now, characters teasing future reveals can be a lot of fun. They create an expectation, one the story hopes to eventually deliver on, though here, there really isn't enough to make them land. Instead, it brings up a variety of concepts before quickly moving on to the next thing. It's jarring, since so many things are of little importance in the grand scheme of things. That said, the one benefit to this approach is the story gains new life on a second playthrough. I just don't think it adds enough to justify another run. It also doesn't help that the story relies on you understanding the lore, otherwise the ending feels somewhat random. Thankfully, gameplay has more going for it.
Most of mine have got lost, or, well, perished.
Please, I want to go home.
As previously mentioned, gameplay is something of a cross between Returnal and Doom. Basically, enemies rain bullets and you need to swap between the 4 weapons to effectively deal with threats. Where it falls short is a lot of little things. For starters, it takes a bit to gain access to defensive abilities. As a result, early sections feel brutal, especially since attacks can deal devastating damage. Seriously, some attacks can remove half your health or drop you to 0 in seconds. Sadly, the developer's approach to balance is to just make healing more plentiful. It works, just not in a way that feels satisfying. It also doesn't help that swapping weapons is cumbersome. I understand controllers offer unique challenges due to the finite amount of buttons, but dodging attacks while mashing the D-pad isn't ideal. Now, there is a button that brings up a swap menu if you prefer, it just doesn't flow well. This wouldn't even be so bad if certain enemies didn't force specific weapons. You must use a shotgun to break blue shields and a sniper for purple. The only exception is finishing enemies, it just isn't a reliable strategy. Enemies also have a considerable amount of health, even on the lowest difficulty, and weapons mats, they take several hits to defeat. All this results in a rather weird approach to difficulty. Despite the earlier comments, I wouldn't consider this a hard game. If anything, it feels really cheap. This is largely due to level design and a certain enemy. Most fights offer a decent amount of cover, to the point where you can largely ignore defensive moves. However, there are a few sections that feel unfair. Either the position is terrible or they have an element of surprise. Honestly, they often invite players to make a mistake. This too can be a good design choice. The Souls games are filled with places that lull you into a false sense of security. They just don't feel well executed. Instead, they just feel tedious. Mostly due to the aforementioned enemy. If you play Destiny, they're basically an exploder shank. They appear in swarms, rush you, and their explosions can one-hit. Thankfully, there is a visual indicator of where they're coming from, though it's easy to overlook when there are so many other things to keep track of. It just isn't a great feeling, something that extends into the platforming sections. Perhaps the most surprising thing in Luna is how platforming evolves. It starts with shooting alien blobs and double jumping between platforms, to alternating between 4 moves to cross a massive divide. It also works fairly well, largely due to command sharing a common button. I don't need to remember a complicated arrangement, just the same button at the right time. What holds it back are floaty controls and rough sections. Simply put, it is really hard to accurately move with the dash, something that is required for a number of sections. There are also a good number of places that have strict timing. It reminds me a lot of Guacamelee or Ninja Gaiden Ragebound's challenges, though nowhere near as difficult. Like, I don't think I failed any section more than twice, but even then they weren't fun. Or, at least, I don't enjoy having a swing, dash, look around a corner, swing, dash, jump, swing, dash, in quick succession for extended periods of time. Now, this might bring up some questions of difficulty, which weren't addressed in that section, and that's because story mode is present. I genuinely think story mode and accessibility options in general are some of the best additions in modern gaming, but to be clear, I don't think they need to be in every game. This could be its own video, which comment if you'd like to hear my extended thoughts on this. The basic gist is rather simple though. I think they're good if it's something the developer wants to include, and bad if it takes away from the charm. Having said that, story mode is in a weird place. Not only does it give players the option to be invincible, most platforming sections have an autocomplete option. What makes it weird are the sections players can skip. These range from the hardest challenges to just double jumping across a gap. Look, it's better to have the option than not. It just doesn't apply to every section. I can see people having issues with the rail sections, though they don't have the option. I imagine this is technical over a choice, still I can see players who need that help feeling abandoned. These are far from the only sections like this, just the most notable example of it. Perhaps the weirdest choice is related to collectibles. A sizable amount of them require some amount of platforming. However, story mode offers no assistance with obtaining them. I imagine this is to preserve the secret, but it creates a clear divide. This is also part of the problem with the difficulty debate. I might not agree that every game needs an easy mode, but I can 100% get the frustration that comes from things being withheld. I mean, if you're going to turn off damage and complete the jumping sections, why are collectibles a bridge too far, especially when they provide insight into the world? Still, it's nice to say pretty much anyone can beat it. Perhaps the most interesting thing in Luna is the level design, mostly because it highlights subtle things developers do to guide players through the world. In this case, Luna utilizes lights as a way to direct players. If you're ever confused, the solution is almost always whatever the next illuminated thing is. They even go a step further to make them flicker. It's the type of thing you might not notice, at least consciously, that many games utilize. The same is true for secrets. A sizable amount of them can be found near Allfather's symbol. It is a catch-all indicator that this place is important, a helpful addition for those who don't want to use my guide or have it outright appear on the map. The only real downside is frequency. Basically, they appear a lot. Instead of 1 or 2 sections with a visual indicator, there are like 40 or more. Some don't even make sense. Take the pipe sections. There is only one path forward, yet they constantly have flickering lights. I don't know, maybe the intent was ambience, but it's one of those things that you can't miss once you see it. Have you ever heard the phrase more than the sum of its parts? Well, Luna Abyss is basically the opposite. It has a lot of interesting ideas, yet doesn't do much with them. At times the narrative has potential, it just doesn't take advantage of it. As for gameplay, it doesn't feel like it's entirely sure what it wants to be. Some sections are a joke, others feel cheap, with the rest offering a time sink. Even its unique elements fall short because it's pulled in so many different directions. It has depth, which is naturally going to alienate people, but it also offers a mode that eliminates all of that, though you can't get around it if you want the full experience. So it can leave a bad taste in both groups' mouths. Still, I don't think Luna Abyss is outright bad, something you could absolutely have fun with if you enjoy these genres or weren't put off by the shortcomings. Otherwise, you're probably best off sitting this one out. Hey, thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, don't forget to leave a like, and for more content, please subscribe.